me, and the fact that, as women in general, we have about 24,000 words a day that we need to say. Our husbands average about 14,000. So you can just, by the time they get home, typically, they're done. We need women in our lives. We need to be able to share. We need that time together. So I'm just so encouraged when I see women get together, and you're all from different places too. It's just so exciting to see that. So thank you for having me tonight. Some of what I wanted to ask as we start, some of what I'm sharing tonight, we're going to talk about marriage. Jennifer had asked me to talk about marriage, and I'm going to give you 5 secrets tonight to a great marriage. Okay? Not just from Linda Callahan, though. So, some of you might be familiar. This is a woman, Shanti Feldman, who wrote For Women Only, For Men Only. This is some of her most recent research. And it says it's the surprising secrets of highly happy marriages. It's a good book. It's a good one to explore and get. Are any of you familiar with it? Okay, some of you are. The other one is Love and Respect by Emerson Eggerichs. That's been around for a while. Patrick and I have had the privilege of spending some time with him in North Carolina, and he and his wife, and they're an amazing couple, and we teach a lot on love and respect. Who's familiar with that? Okay, more of you are familiar with this. So some of what I'm sharing tonight is going to be based on some of their input and information. This was on a bus, and it was going to be a late night ride, okay? It was leaving at midnight, and these people were going to be on the bus for probably 14 hours. So everybody was kind of settling in, and the very last person that got on the bus was a father and his 3 kids. And he ended up getting on the bus, and he went to his seat and started looking out the window. The kids, the 3, were running all over the bus, okay? And so there were several people on the bus that were kind of looking at each other. You can tell what they're thinking, right? Really? What is this guy doing? He's not parenting, he's not disciplining his kids. They're running all over the place. So one of the gentlemen ended up being kind of elected in an unspoken way to be the spokesperson. And he went to talk to the father and approached him. Sir, the guy was kind of out of it. Finally got his attention. He said, sir, your kids, we're all trying to sleep here. This is going to be a long bus ride. We really need your help here. Can you tend to your kids? Well, the father turns to him and he said, I know, I'm really sorry. He goes, we just left the hospital, and my wife died. This was their mom. She just passed away, and I don't know what to do. What just happened? So the anger or the frustration turned to empathy, compassion, right? That's called the marital bus ride. We have that a lot in our relationships with our husbands. We have to learn to decode what's underneath that. Now I'm hoping and assuming that all of your husbands are good-willed men. I've often said this, that it may not feel like this all the time, but Patrick doesn't wake up every morning thinking, how am I going to make her mad? What am I going to do to aggravate Linda? No. And I don't think he does that either. But what happens? We have friction, don't we? We all do. But we have to learn to decode. Bringing it to another example. So say husband and wife. Husband comes home quiet, not saying a whole lot. In general, as women, we're always looking to the relationship. Okay. Is he mad at me? What did I do? I'm not sure what I did. Which probably has nothing to do with us. Many times it has nothing to do with us. But he's being protective. That's what men do. They are quiet. They don't say a whole lot when they're struggling. All right? We have to learn to do that. So are we willing to look behind the words many times or the actions and look at our husband's heart? Now, Shanti Feldman, in this book, her most recent book, again, entitled The Surprising Secrets of Highly Happy Marriages. What I liked about this is, and what I gave you on your handout tonight, this was based on over 1,000 couples, and this was where 100%, basically, well, let me say this. The question was, are you personally generally happy in your marriage these days and enjoying being married, okay? So this was based on 1,000 couples who resoundingly said yes to the Fantastic Five. That's what she calls them. And these were 5 things that our husbands, they said, if my wife did this, that would please me greatly. And the other is for us too. If my husband did these, that would please me greatly. But we're not talking to your husbands tonight. We're talking to you, right? And I'm gonna tell you a way to use this too, but did everybody get a handout, by the way?
No.
That would be good if we could get, at some point, maybe get them.
Are there,
because you have to
did you
look
run
at it.
out? Oh, no.
We did. We'll take a picture and we'll put it on Facebook.
I'm good. Oh, okay.
But if we can share.
That would be great, and then we'll try to get you some other copies.
Who needs one?
So again, these are findings that are based on only those couples whose response to that question was a resounding yes. If my husband did, or if my wife did these 5 things, that would really please me. Number 1, it says, notice his effort and sincerely thanks him for it. Now, I've raised 3 kids. Thankfully, I'm an empty nester, although one is back at home temporarily. I love Michael, but he's 25 and we're ready for him to go again. But anyway, it's been a good year. Patrick and I don't tell our kids how much we enjoy empty nest. I will be honest with you, because we really do. But that noticing his effort and sincerely thanking him for it. Many times when I remember when I was a mom, at home, making lunches, all those things that we do, those things that we don't even consider, you just see it, you just handle it. We don't always get that thanks for our husbands, from our husbands. Now, if they do that, that's great. But our husbands need that. They need that appreciation. That's respect to them. That's like air that they breathe. They have to hear it. I was talking with a young woman today, and I kind of went over these with her, and I said, do you do these things? Do you say any of these things to your husband? Do you notice when he, when he makes efforts? So an example is, she was sharing basically that he would do a little bit, but, not a whole lot. He would, like, for example, maybe she would encourage her husband to go play football with their son. And so he'd go out there maybe for about 10 minutes, but, it wasn't that long. And then they'd be back in, and she was a little disappointed by that. And I said, well, did you tell him that that was a good, encourage him in that? No, I didn't do that. And I said, well, you know how you're gonna empower him and have him have longer times out with your son? Tell him how much you appreciate it. Thank him for it. It's little things that you notice. Think about, look for what your husband's doing right. Thank you for mowing the lawn, because I know how hot it was outside. Thanks for playing the kids, even when you were so tired from work. Our husbands have a built-in desire to work and achieve. Not because we think, that may not be as important to us, but it's important to them, and we have to have them. This is a really important piece too. I think a lot of times one of the parts of that is just cheering his successes, the things that you see him doing. Again, looking for those things that are right. I've been counseling couples for 30 years, and I can tell you that I hear this so much. It just breaks my heart, but I also get it, because I've been there too. Guys have told me, they said, before we got married, my wife was my biggest cheerleader. And after we got married, it was gone. All she wanted to do was fix me. At least that's what they hear. Now, they don't always like to hear this, but Gary Smalley talks about women have kind of this built-in marriage manual. We know how to have a good marriage, so we're always trying to make it better, right? Why don't you try this, or why don't you try that with Johnny, or, we're always trying to do that. Well, what do they hear in that, ladies? They hear criticism. So it's not that we bring those things up. Some of it's timing, some of it's how we do it. But be his cheerleader. Don't forget that. Tell him thanks for going to work every day for the family. Express that appreciation. You may have to look for some things to do it. Okay, number one, notice his efforts, thank him for it. Number two is just simply says, fill in the blank. You did a great job at fill in the blank. Our guys have a desire to analyze and to counsel. Now, obviously, they like to give advice. We don't always want their advice. So I found it real helpful for Patrick. Oftentimes I've just said, you know what, I need about, because he might be distracted at some things, I might say twofold. I need about 15 minutes. I need just for you to listen. Or I do need your advice. Is this a good time, or when would be a good time? Give him some control of that. Sometimes we're talking to our husbands or at them, and then we get really aggravated. They're not listening, they don't care. You know, then we think they don't care about us. That's not it. They're distracted, we need to give them, empower them some, tell them what we need specifically. That lets them off the hook if they know they don't have to give us advice, and how much time we need. And then let him determine what that would be. Let him fix things and applaud his solution orientation, because many times they are solution oriented. Number three, mentions in front of others something he did well. So you're in a group of people, talk up your husband. Tell him what you saw him doing well today, or what you admire about him. That helps him feel good about himself. He has a strong desire to lead, to make decisions. Praise his good decisions. Honor his authority in front of the kids and differ with him in private. That's a hard one for many of us, not to, you know, because Patrick and I have talked about this a lot over the years too, and this is pretty much true in general. Typically, you know, not that this is always the case, but in general, the female is typically softer, male is typically more harsh. It's figuring out that balance. Well, that's God's idea, to have a mother and father. It is. So part of that is finding that balance in that. But for us to throw them under the bus in front of the kids or act in those ways at that time, we just can't do that. We have to do it in private. Keep banging away at some of those issues. We can grow now. Maybe find it difficult. You know, I have to tell you, a lot of women that come into my office tell me, my husband doesn't do anything that I can respect. I don't see anything. Well, then you're gonna have to get a different mindset, because this is the man in your life, and there are some things that he's doing right. I talked to someone today who doesn't have a lot of feeling for her husband, doesn't love him, doesn't feel love towards him. I said, you ask God to give you a heart of love for him, and he'll do it. God is faithful in that. He'll do it. Those times when we're so angry, or so hurt, or we just can't see beyond that, or we always see as the negative, see, our mood will follow our thinking. This is the battlefield. We're not to be ruled by feelings, are we? But we're not to ignore those. So what I find happen a lot of times is, because we don't like the negative feelings, we just kind of push that aside. But that's a problem, because see, what happens is if I push that enough, I get numb, and then I start getting resentful and bitter. In Matthew 12, it says, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. What's the heart? It's my mind, what I think about, my actions, my will, and my emotions, what I'm keeping on the inside. So I acknowledge my feelings, but I'm not going to be ruled by my feelings. I'm going to work on this part. Okay, can't see anything positive. What is positive, though? I may have to fight for that and think through, how do I change my thoughts about my husband? Help me look for things that I can act respectfully in or encourage in them. We have to work on that, because it's easy to go down those negative roads or compare, right? Compare with other husbands and what they do or don't do, and other couples. That's very dangerous ground. This is the man God gave you. This is what you're going to focus son. Help me look for things that he's doing right and tell him about that. One of the things I hear a lot too is, he's not the spiritual head. You know, I want him to be the spiritual head. Well, do we think nagging him about that is gonna make him want to be the spiritual head? No, it doesn't work. So you do what you feel called to do. You know, oftentimes what I say to women is, ask your husband to pray for you. Say if you've got a headache, ask him to pray for you. Do it wisely. Be wise. Most guys, most men will end up praying for you if you ask them to. It might be silently, but hey, that's a step. But that's helping them live into all that God's got for him to be. We nag him, we remind him what he's not doing. That does not motivate a man. It does not work. Some of you understand what I'm saying, right? Okay, I've been there, I know. Okay, number 4. So let me repeat these one more time because I know some of you don't have a handout. So 1, notice his effort and sincerely thanks him for it. Number 2, you did a great job at fill in the blank. 3, mentions in front of others something he did well. Number 4, shows that you desire him sexually and that he pleases us sexually. That can be a hard one sometimes, because if we're in a dry place, you know, I know Philip, who is it, Willard Harlan talks about this, his needs, her needs. Have some of you read that book? He talks about the 5 intimacy needs. And number 1, I won't go through all of them, but the number 1 and 2 for men, sex, side-by-side activity, which we're gonna talk a little bit more about. That's what helps bring out their loving feelings, okay? It's just how they're hardwired, just different. For us, sex is down there, it's a little bit lower on the list. But ours is affection and conversation. We feel emotionally connected, then we're gonna be more apt to wanna be sexual with our husbands. What's the number 1 complaint, do you all think, for women regarding sexuality, where they have trouble? What do you think it is? Why we don't want to have sex? Any thoughts?
I can say that loud. Besides the tire?
Exhaustion, no energy. Now, it doesn't mean our guys don't need to be sensitive to that. You know, we've got kids, and you've got many of your homeschoolers, and all that goes into what we keep up with in the day. But this is what you have to work on. You have to be intentional. You know, I'm a life coach as well, and I do a lot of this with my, integrate that into my counseling, but that's a key word, be intentional. So, you know, I don't know about you, I'm just gonna be transparent with you. I remember early on, I used to think, oh, I don't really want to, and so we would just kind of do that, but instead, what we got to was, we just decided, you know, on Wednesdays and Sundays, that's gonna be our time. Now, whether we have sex or not, you know, hopefully it leads to that, but it may not always. But mentally, then, he would get, you know, he would be excited, and I could prepare that, you know, I would think about, I'll take a bath, and I'll wear something nice, try to get the kids to bed earlier, but you have to be intentional about that. And actually, it took a lot of pressure off. I thought, oh, good, you know, the rest of the week I don't have to work. It's not like I don't like sex, I like it, but I was exhausted. So, be smart about this, but your husband needs that. He needs that connection with you. And I'm not saying this to be manipulative, it's, you know, the bottom line is, Emerson Eggerichs talks about this. He says, if you meet someone at their greatest need, they really want to do it. It just opens them up. It just does. Be who you need to be. And Patrick and I are testimony to that. I mean, it's like we work on out-pleasing each other. It's so fun. It is fun. We've been married almost 32 years, and it's not been without difficulty. It's been for persevering, but that's the reward. The reward, oh my gosh, it's sweet. And it's because we worked at it. To have a great marriage, you have to work on it. Do not take it for granted. You have to work on these things. And just trust me, this is good stuff. So part of it is initiating periodically. Men love, our husbands love us to act like, you know, it's not like it's just about sex either for them. I think sometimes we go there. But see, they want that intimate connection just as much as we do. It's really not just about the act. It's not about that. They want us to want them and to think that they're attractive and still the guy. They do. So, the Les and Leslie Parrott, they're also marriage researchers, and they talk about there's 3 most important times of the day to connect, okay? What do you think those might be that make a difference in your relationship with your husband? What do you think the 3 most important times of the day are? Morning, okay? Home from work. Bedtime. So what that does is, it sets the whole emotional tone for your day, for your relationship. A real good time, a real key time, say coming home from work. Like, and again, you may all have different schedules. I typically would be home with the kids before Patrick got home. And I don't know about you all, but my dog, when I come home, every time, I don't care how many times I come home during the day, she's always excited to see me. She just wants to run, and I think that's God's picture of unconditional love. Just love it. What happens as kids get older? Early on, they get excited. Daddy's home, and run to daddy. What happens when they're teenagers? You know, they're on the couch or watching television or, hi, Dad, you know. Think he feels valued? You're home already? Right, absolutely. But we don't want to be or fall into that trap, and you know a lot of us do. Oh, hi, maybe we're on the computer or we're in another room. I'm going to challenge you on that. If whoever gets home first, well, if you get home first and he comes home, go greet him. Give him a 7-second kiss. Make it count. You know how we do the pecks on the cheek or just peck on the lips? He's not going to know what's going on. Obviously nothing's going to happen right then and there, but you know, it makes him feel valued and special. And you know what? You might enjoy that too. It is a point of connection. When you guys leave or part in the morning, and I can share this too, I guess. I was thinking, there is not any more powerful weapon than you have in your marriage than to pray. To pray together. And a lot of couples don't, and I understand that. And you can't make your husband do it. Don't nag him into it. You just pray until he can come to that. But I know with Patrick and I over the years, I've seen the difference when we have it and when we have, and I tell you what, we don't miss. So before we leave in the morning, we pray together. Before we go to sleep at night, we pray together. Now, that's been years of getting to that place, okay? But there is nothing more powerful than you've got. It just levels the playing field. The stuff that used to be important, it's just not so important. So if you can challenge your husband to do one thing, would you pray? Even if it's silent, just hold my hands. Sometimes what I assign couples when they come in and they're struggling is I'll say, wife, you take today, you find your husband and pray about your marriage. Doesn't have to be long, just God wants our hearts, right? It's not about how long. Husband, you take the next day. But this is the key. So I ask them to alternate initiating prayer. If the husband forgets, I'd say to the wife, do not bring it up. You just be responsible for your every other day. And to the husband, the same thing. You just be responsible for your every other day, but make it happen. You're bringing God into a relationship. That's the foundation. That's what you're going to build on. And even if he doesn't do it, so, okay, I'm just going to do that every other day. Just do it. Number 5, makes it clear to him that he makes her happy. You know, it's powerful to me. John Gottman, I don't know if some of you are familiar with him, he's a relationship researcher out of Atlanta, and Patrick and I had gone to a workshop of his last year, and he does a lot of research on marriage relationships. And one of the things that he talks about is one of the relationship killers. He actually calls these the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, because if you do these 4 things in your relationship on a regular basis, you're gonna kill the relationship. Criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And I'm not gonna get into a lot of that tonight, that might be something you wanna look up, but I wanna say this. As women, many times, we fall into the trap of criticism. What does that look like? It's sometimes our words, but what I think a lot of times we don't realize is how powerful our nonverbals are. So communication is 7% content, what I say. 38% my tone of voice, 55% my nonverbals. What I think sometimes we don't realize is how tuned in our husbands are to our facial expressions. We get like kind of dark when we get aggravated. They pick up on it more quickly than anybody, because that's how they're hardwired. We don't think about that, but they do. So when a husband acts unloving towards you, I would say to you, go into the bathroom and look at yourself in the mirror and repeat what you said to your husband before he acted that way, and see what you look like. It's really telling. It's very interesting. I've been there, trust me. Okay, Patrick will say now, he's like, Linda, you've got that edge to your voice. Okay, I got it. You know, we move on. We've got our little codes now. I gotta pay attention to that. I'm saying pay attention to your tone of voice, your facial expressions. Think about your words. That probably gets us into trouble more than anything, as women, our mouths. Remember, 24,000 at least, husbands 14. We have a lot more challenge, a lot more opportunity to get, stick our foot in our mouth, right? He has a desire to protect and provide. That's how God has hardwired him to work. Men don't have an option in that. They're built to work. They're also built to protect us. Now, that's no small thing either. See, all of our husbands literally would lay down their life in a minute for us, okay? And this is what I explain to men sometimes. If you had a burglar in your house come into your window, what would you do? Oh, I'd take a bullet, I'd take care of that. I'd rescue my family. This is the hard part for men though. So they would lay down their life for us, and that's no small thing. What they have a harder time getting is the emotional safety. Because sometimes I say to them, sometimes you're that burglar coming in through the window. That they can get. That's a harder one for men to get. But the physical safety, they got it. And don't minimize that. That's an important piece. Praise him again for his desire, commitment to provide for the family. That whole shoulder to shoulder part, I was thinking about this last week, where I'm a doer and Patrick's a doer. So I don't mind doing inside work. I don't like doing outside work. Now I've learned to plan and do some of those things because it's important to him. So I do that some. But this was like 2 weeks ago. He was out mowing in the backyard, and I was sitting on the back porch with Coco, my little pug. And, he'd just be going up and down, and he'd be like, mowing, and then coming back. I didn't say a word. And when he came in, he was like, that was so nice. That was so great that you were just out there while I was mowing. Our guys love that. So if your husband asks you to come and sit and watch a show with him, see, we want to talk, we want to interact, we want to engage. That's worthwhile, right? Because I got a million other things to do. But if he asks you to sit down, that's energy for him. That's huge. Huge deposit in the relationship. There'll be a payoff, I promise. It's worth it. Just encouraging him sometimes to have alone time. I think a lot of times with our guys, I remember when Patrick came home, he used to work in the port system many years ago, and he would come home and just be exhausted. And so we worked out that he would just go into the bedroom for 15 minutes, just kind of have some quiet time, and he was able to come out and be with the family. Otherwise, sometimes he just come from work to home and So it's just figuring out ways of trying to meet each other's needs and that. Emerson Eggridge, in Love and Respect, bases his whole ministry on Ephesians 5:33. And I want to read you this version because I love how he says this. This is out of the Amplified version. So listen to these words. Let the wife see that she respects and reverences her husband, that she notices him, regards him, honors him, prefers him, venerates and esteems him, praises him, admires him, loves him exceedingly. It's powerful. And if you think about it, he's not saying if you feel like it. That's one of Paul's last words to the church. And in Titus it says, listen to Paul. When he speaks to you, it's as if Jesus Christ is speaking to you himself. That's a command. That's what we're to do. And we can think all day long what our husband's not doing. But at the end of the day, it's about what I'm doing. What I'm doing. That's what I'm responsible for. I can't control him. I can control me. And one person can make the difference. What helped me the most is, and Emerson Eggridge talks about this too, because in some ways it really doesn't matter what your husband does. Now, I'm not talking about abuse or violence in the home or bullying. That's off the table, okay? That's a whole separate issue. But I'm talking about, in general, goodwill people trying to make life work, okay? So the times that it was hardest for me to act in respectful ways to Patrick, I did it for the Lord. It was like, okay, Lord, I'm doing this for you. I'm doing it as unto you. That's who you look to. Why do we need to decode? Because, again, the key to motivating another person is to meet them at their deepest need. You meet their need, which is what we're called to do. That is going to promote biblical intimacy and romance. I can promise you. So be what and who you need to be. So the handout that you do have, or what you end up being able to hopefully download, what I would suggest, because there's a fantastic 5 for women on the bottom of that, okay? So maybe what you do, how you could share this is take it home or get it off the site and ask your husband, how am I doing on these things? Or if I did these things, what would be, what are some things that you'd like me to do? Is that really true? Would you like to hear some of these things? Ask him. And then look at the fantastic 5 for you and share with him what of those, probably all of them, but what of those would you really like? There are things like texting my wife during the day and just letting her know I'm thinking of her. Sincerely telling her that she's beautiful. Hold her hand. See, those are not hard things. Guys like instruction. Be behaviorally specific. Tell them. So go over that list with them. That's a way for you to share this, okay? What Shaunti Feldhahn discovered in her research was that no matter the state of your marriage, small changes in awareness and action can change everything. Everything. Emerson calls it living in the rewarded cycle. His love regardless of her respect. Now again, we can't control him, but my respect regardless of his love, regardless of his acting in other ways. You can turn the relationship around by doing some of the things I'm talking to you today. I promise you that. A man has needs that his wife doesn't have. Not wrong, just different. The pathway to effective communication is to minister to our goodwill spouses. Philippians 2 verse 3. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves. I'm not talking about being a doormat. Again, we're not talking about violence in the home or bullying or abuse. But it's deciding to be what God's called me to be, what He's commanded me to be. Recently, I was working with a couple who they were going through a hard time, and I won't go into a lot of details about that, but he was sharing with me the other day that he had come home sick and was really feeling bad, and he was trying to contact his wife, tried texting her, calling her, no response. He took it as rejection and thought she was punishing him, or at the very least, rejecting him. So when she got home, he was upset. Lost it with her. She, on the other hand, never got his calls or texts. What happened was her phone died. She had her son at a therapy appointment and never got it. What's the natural response? What do we want to do? We want to get defensive, don't we? Well, I didn't do that on purpose, but where does that go? Many times that doesn't go anywhere. So again, it's that learning to decode. He wasn't feeling well. Now there is a time to, of course, share. This is what happened, I didn't have my phone. But again, there's a time also to listen, to hear his heart in that. Typically, I remember when I used to work, years ago, I used to work in the emergency room at Chance. I was their clinical social worker. And, I dealt with a lot of trauma and near-death. So they'd all the people, the nursing staff would always bring the families to me. And just in terms of talking with them, a way to deal with that is not to escalate with the person. Just listen, reflect back, talk in a regular tone. It brings people right down so you can have that conversation. We start getting defensive or justifying what we're doing. Again, I don't know about you guys, but my experience is that doesn't work very well. Again, not that he was justified, because he wasn't. It didn't make a lot of sense, right? But it's decoding. He felt miserable, he was hurting. He took it to a place that it didn't need to go. She needed to understand where he was. So how we respond is crucial. A perfect time to decode. I'm going to end with this. This is a woman by the name of Jane Wells, 1886. She wrote this a long time ago. It's called Marriage Advice from 1886. She said, "Let your love be stronger than your hate or your anger. Learn the wisdom of compromise, for it's better to bend a little than break. Believe the best rather than the worst." People have a way of living up or down to your opinion of them. Remember that true friendship is the basis for any lasting relationship. The person you choose to marry is deserving of the courtesies and kindnesses you bestow on your friends. Please hand this down to your children, she says, and your children's children. The more things change, the more they are the same. Thank you for letting me share with you tonight.
My husband and I also have been able to sit under their teaching at 2 marriage retreats, and it has been wonderful. Okay, I'm going to make this really quick because we still have one component of the night, but I'm just here to give you some housekeeping and some announcements. So I'll get to the fun stuff first, which is the dessert night that all of us enjoy every December. I'm going to give you a couple tidbits about that. At our next meeting, we're going to officially kind of launch the dessert night. We're going to open up the registration. Everything this year, as far as RSVPs and Moms Mall registrations, is going to be done online. Everything's going to be done online, and we're going to open it up at the next meeting. But what we're really excited to share is something completely, we're going to do everything that has been done, but we're going to add one huge component to the Moms Mall, and that is that we are going to partner with a local nonprofit in town, and we are going to serve them. Not literally, but we are going to partner with them, and you are going to find out a whole lot more at our next meeting about who they are, so I'm just giving you a teaser. But we're really excited about that because our theme for the dessert night is called to serve. Our theme this whole year is called Who Are We Called to Be, and we're also called to serve. So that's about that. I want to thank the food hospitality team with all the drinks. There's I see 4 or 5 of you, so thank you. We do have a little basket and we have sign-up. So the basket, if you want to throw in $1 or $2 to pay for the food, drinks, supplies, you're welcome to do that. But there's also a sign-up sheet I see for, is that for the next meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
That's
it's
for the
not
next
just
meeting.
food. If you want to bring paper goods, that's
Okay.
on here too.
Okay, so go ahead and sign up for that. And then let me just tell you next month, our homeschool how-to will be all about math. And I should say, tried and true tips of math. So we have a sign-up sheet in here. We're going to continue to do a panel. Some of you already heard this, but for those that didn't, if you are passionate about math, in the preschool, elementary, middle school, or high school, or all of the above, please fill it in. It could be anything. You do not have to be a math expert, a teacher. You could be, I made this game and I seriously want to share it, but you're free and you could be on the panel. But we really want to represent all the grades. And then our Mom's Heart Gathering for next month is Jan Gordon. And she is going to transition us into our next called theme, which is called to guard. We are called as women to guard our families, our minds, all kinds of, and I don't know what she's talking about, but that's kind of our theme. Okay? And I think that is everything, correct? Oh, and the freebie table is out around the corner, and all that is free. So make sure you browse it.
Lots of girls' clothes.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a nice print.
All right.
Thank you, Jenny. You make the housekeeping so interesting. I want to form our Connect groups now. It's 8:45, so if anybody is feeling the need to leave, please feel free to do so. I don't want anyone to feel trapped. But this is such an important part of the evening to get together in small groups and just pray through and chat through some of what was shared tonight. And especially if anybody has come with anything, things do not just go well in all our lives all the time. And this is a safe place where you can bring those things. What you share in those groups stays in those groups. And I can promise you that you will find rich, safe, wise women who are our prayer partners. And they will be able to help point you to wisdom and truth and God himself. We have 3 prompts that Linda provided us with that we can discuss in our groups. What 1 or 2 things have you heard tonight that you want to implement in your marriage this week? That's one thing you can discuss in